Yo, what's up guys, Rackals here. So in the most recent Duels update, Hypixel actually just added Quake Craft Duels, which I've been playing quite a decent amount of since it's come out, so I figured I would just make a little tips and tricks video for people who are interested in getting into the game. Whether it's for fun or for achievements or just because you like grinding, this video will hopefully help you out. So to begin with the super ultra basics, you can get to it at this NPC in the back of the lobby, or the play command is /play duels_quake_duel. Basic controls are left click to dash and right click to shoot, and the first player to get to 6 kills wins. Start off with, I'll go into some detail on how the shooting works, since that's arguably the most important part. You can shoot once every 0.85 seconds, which you can see down near the bottom of your screen, either by your XP bar or the text above it. And that's true for all of the guns except for the snail, which is a challenge gun that only shoots every 9 seconds. So make sure you're not selecting that one unless you specifically want to challenge. And also keep in mind that if you have the random kit option enabled, it does have a possibility of selecting that one, so you're kind of playing Russian roulette by doing that. Now to get into the actual shooting mechanics, first of all, the hitboxes are a little bit bigger than what you might actually expect. They're very, very forgiving, especially when players are moving. So the way the shots work is they're pretty much hit scan. The moment you right click, it fires off a beam that kills everything in its path. No matter how close or far away it is, it'll hit them at the exact same moment. If your opponent is standing still, you can just shoot right at them. But if your opponent's moving at all, you're going to want to lead your shots a little bit, and the distance that you lead your shots really just depends on your ping. It's going to be a little bit different for everyone, but pretty much the higher your ping, the more you're going to want to lead your shots. It's definitely something to get used to, but with practice, you can get very good at it. And there are actually quite a lot of EU players in the community, both for regular QuakeCraft and of course this new Duels mode. So don't worry, even if you're on higher ping, it's absolutely still possible to compete. Now, some other tips that'll help you with your aim is that you actually generally want to aim lower on the player's model. Quake is a game of one shot, one kill, so even though headshots do exist in the game, they don't actually do anything. And the reason you generally want to aim lower on the player is because there's something which the community refers to as splash radius. Basically, as you can see, if I whiff a player by their head, the shot will just kind of keep going on and not kill them. But if I move my mouse straight downwards and whiff the player by the same distance but hit the floor around their feet, the splash radius will basically cause it to still connect to them and you will get the kill. Pretty much any good player has around or under 0.1 headshot ratio because it's just best to aim low in this game mode. You will end up with more kills, sometimes kills that don't even look like they should hit, to be honest. And that's especially true with pre-firing around stuff like corners. Like I was talking about, you do want to lead your shots in this game, but that's especially true if a player is coming around a corner at you. Again, the exact timing on when you want to shoot them depends on your ping or their ping, but if you get really good at it, you can essentially shoot players before they're actually around the corner and are able to shoot you. This can also be true for if they're coming upwards on a launch pad, but just be aware that if they're good with their timing, they can actually do the exact thing back to you. It really does work both ways, and it can feel unfair sometimes, but it just comes down to knowing that it's something that will inevitably happen to you and that it's something you can also do right back to them. And pretty much the last part about shooting that I wanted to mention is the hitboxes of blocks. Basically every full block just acts as a full block, but you actually can shoot through the open part of slabs and stairs, which means you can shoot through really tiny little holes, which can sometimes prove to be useful. However, at the moment, this does not apply to fence blocks, and these are actually really prominent on a few of the maps. As you can see here, it does visually look like you should be able to shoot around this fence, but it will in fact block your shots. Hopefully this is something they change in the future, but for now, it's just something you gotta be aware of. Also, the last thing you might want to keep in mind is that I would quantify this as a Minecraft game and not a shooter game. A lot of people come into QuakeCraft or Quake Duels and start playing it as if it's Valorant or CSGO or any of those other types of games, and they try to match their movement and aiming to those other games. The fact of the matter is that you will probably play better in Quake Duels if you treat it like it's a Minecraft PvP game. There is a lot of crossover between really good PvPers who are able to then come over into this game mode and perform extremely well in it pretty much instantly, since they have so much practice and experience with aiming and tracking on players in Minecraft. I got a lot of questions about stuff like what's the best sensitivity, FOV, etc. And really my answer is just whatever you are most comfortable with for Minecraft PvP stuff. To an extent, I guess if you have like a super ridiculously high sensitivity or something, you might want to turn it down, same if it's super low. So yeah, really it's just most important to stick to something that you know and that you're most comfortable with, as opposed to trying to adapt your gameplay style as if you're playing an entirely different game. It's also worth noting that sometimes a good way to improve is to just watch other good players. And coincidentally, I have uploaded a ton of QuakeCraft content over the past few years here on this channel, so I definitely recommend subscribing and checking a few of them out after you're done with this video. Next, we'll talk about movement. So you do have speed 2 in this game, which means you don't really want to run jump, and you do also generally want to be moving about as much as possible. Standing still makes you an extremely easy target to hit, and I have seen some players, especially new ones, essentially try to just go into a corner and stand there for the entire game and wait for the opponent to come to them. I really do not recommend this strategy. First of all, it's just extremely boring, both for you and behind your opponent, you will make people not like you. And secondly, it's generally not that good of a strategy overall. I think you'll have a lot more success with getting kills and wins and just having fun if you play the game as it was intended to be played. Obviously, everything within balance. It's not like you need to constantly be running forwards and dashing into your opponent over and over. Sometimes it's best to hang away from them and try to get a good angle on them to shoot them once or twice. But generally, you just do not want to hang out in one spot for too long, especially standing still. Now, as far as dashing is concerned, there's technically 3 different types of dashes you can do. The first one is basically just left clicking while you're on the floor. As you can see, you'll go forwards a few blocks. The next one is actually the intended way to dash. You are supposed to combine it with a jump or just being midair in general. Depends on your ping, but I generally dash when I'm around the apex of my jump, and you'll go quite a bit further than if you aren't jumping at all. And the last one is what some people refer to as tall dash, and this one is the one that depends the most on your ping. But if you dash the exact frame that you start jumping, you will get a taller and stronger dash. You can kind of see a comparison of all of them here. Most of the time, you're just going to want to do the regular method where you dash while you're already midair. The only time you'd really want to dash without jumping is if you're trying to fake your opponent out. And the tall dash is especially useful for when you're just trying to clear large areas of space. You can dash once every 2 seconds. Unfortunately, there's no visible timer on screen like there is for the shooting cooldown, but it will say how much is left on the timer in chat if you try to dash again too early. And it's really helpful in all sorts of situations, whether it's to try to come around a corner quickly to pre-fire somebody, or to dodge them while you guys are both in front of each other, or to escape the open area in mid after you get the kill. I'll talk more about player visibility in a second, but after you kill a player, it's best not to be left out in the open because when they're respawning, a lot of the times you're not going to be sure where they're coming from. Now, the last thing about movement is that there's also launch pads in the game. The ones made out of redstone blocks are horizontal launch pads. Basically, they will shoot you forwards in the direction you are facing, and the ones made out of lapis are vertical launch pads. They will first shoot you upwards, then forwards in the direction you're facing. Now, the next most important thing in this game is visibility. Obviously, you kind of need to know where your opponents are in order to kill them. Now, by default, you will spawn with a tracking compass. I just recommend completely ignoring this for a few reasons. First of all, the maps are pretty small and players can move around so quickly that if you're splitting your attention between those two things, it will probably just mess you up more than it helps. It also updates obscenely slowly. It's ridiculous. If I kill somebody and they spawn behind me, this compass will take literal seconds to actually start pointing towards them again. And finally, you're better off just using your eyes anyway. Now, there are some tricks to make using your eyes a lot easier. The first and easiest one is to enable hitboxes by pressing F3 and B at the same time. Most modern clients actually even include a hitboxes mod, which allows you to like change the color and stuff. I personally often use a neon green or neon red hitbox, although the default white one is already quite good. Next, your resource pack is also pretty important. I highly recommend using a lighter and cleaner pack because the darker and more detailed the textures, generally it gets harder and harder to see the opponent's name tags through walls, which I guess I should have mentioned earlier, but yes, you will always see your opponent's name tag. Even if they're shifting, it doesn't do anything. So making sure you're able to see name tags is super duper important. Some players will take this to extremes by using specific packs. I actually have my own pack, which I released and made a video on not too long ago that looks really ugly, but it is very effective for seeing players. And some players take it to the super extreme by using packs that are just all one solid color. The QuakeCraft Discord server has download links to all sorts of different Quake packs, and it's also just a useful resource for talking to over 1,000 other QuakeCraft players. So I do recommend checking that out as well if you're interested in getting more involved with the community. Now, one really annoying thing about how Quake Duels currently works is that there's actually a bit of a bug in the respawning where both the player and their name tag will be fully invisible for the first few seconds. This means that after every kill, you do actually have to be quite careful, and also keep an eye out for the ghost of the player, for lack of a better term. Basically, whenever they die, they just teleport directly to the next spawn point, and sometimes you'll actually be able to see the player's ghosts flying across your screen to get to the next spawn point, which means you can absolutely use that to track their general location. You can't always see it, and even when you can, it's not always 100% reliable, but it is a super useful trick nonetheless, so definitely keep your eyes peeled for that. And like I said, hopefully the invis thing is something they fix in the future. And another way to improve your awareness in the game is actually through sounds. I do highly recommend playing with sounds on and with headphones if possible, so you can have 3D audio, so you can hear stuff like your enemy's shots, dashes, and launchpad uses, which is important to not only help you determine where they might be, but also to know when to time your shots if they're trying to come around a corner and pre-fire you. Now finally, most of the cosmetics in this mode function the same as the rest of the Duels mode, meaning you can use the shop in the Duels lobby to change stuff like your hat, victory dance, and aura. Certain other stuff is actually tied to your regular Quakecraft settings, which means to change it you have to go into the classic games lobby and open up the shop there, after which you're able to change some stuff like your kill sound and where your shot cooldown is displayed. Also, when Quakecraft Duels was released, they pushed an update to regular Quakecraft as well that made the new default trigger speed 1 second and the default dash speed 2 seconds, but unfortunately they did not retroactively upgrade everybody to have these things equipped, which means that regardless of whether you plan to to play the regular Quakecraft mode or not, I highly recommend just going into the shop right now and making sure that you equip the 1-second trigger and 2-second dash so that if you ever do end up playing a game, you don't have to be on unnecessarily bad equipment. If this guide helped you out at all, then don't forget that you now owe all of your future successes entirely to me, regardless of whether it's Quake related or not. You just graduated school? Yeah, that was all me. You won some sort of championship? Hey, thank me later, dog. Or you can thank me now by liking and subscribing, which would be greatly appreciated. If you have any other questions, feel free to drop a comment or join my Discord server or even the Quakecraft one, links to both of which are in the description.